Now at 6, NBC News confirms the Department of Justice will not file charges against either of the Baton Rouge police officers involved in the death of Alton Sterling. Good evening. I'm Scott Walker.
And I'm Zella Kim. Baton Rouge officers Blake Salamani and Howie Lake II were involved in the death of Sterling last July at a Baton Rouge convenience store. The shooting was captured on cell phone video, sparked protest in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and across the country. Blake and Salamani were put on administrative leave after that shooting.
The Sterling family's attorney says they have not been notified at this time. He says we are not aware of any decision the DOJ has made on the Sterling matter. They have not told us or let our client know. I can only hope they let the family know once they make a decision one way or the other. And tonight, several Louisiana officials are reacting to the news. The Baton Rouge mayor released this statement saying in part, "I am appalled that this news, whether true or false, has been disseminated without a formal decision being relayed to the Sterling family first. Also, no one in my office or the governor's office has been notified by the U.S. Attorney's Office or of a decision or a timeline. I'm still in consistent contact with the governor's office." End quote. In a couple of tweets, Congressman Cedric Richmond said the following: "The fact that the Washington Post confirms, but the family and state officials have not been notified is an indictment on DOJ. It completely undermines the credibility and transparency of the Justice Department."
And of course, we will continue to monitor the story for you on air, online, and social media. You can also download the WDSU News app for updates on the Alton Sterling shooting case.
Protesters and police, meanwhile, standing vigilant at a Confederate monument that the city plans to remove. The PGT Beauregard and Robert E. Lee monuments were also damaged last night after protest. Some people showed up with guns, speaking for and against the removal of the monuments. Live team coverage tonight with Travers Mackel at City Hall with more on the firepower displayed. But we begin with WDSU's Casey Frand in Mid-City. Casey.
Well, Scott, right now we can tell you that there was a heated debate here last night between protesters for and against the removal of these monuments. That led to 5 people being arrested. And as you can see right behind me, the Jefferson Davis Monument is now being guarded by barricades and police. Now, this afternoon, there were about 15 people who were back here today waving Confederate flags, some saying that they want to preserve the 3 monuments that the city plans to take down. One of the men we spoke to here had an AK-47 strapped to his chest, and he says he felt threatened last night by people throwing eggs and beer cans at them, and he says his friend also suffered a concussion after being hit in the head. And at the Beauregard Monument over in City Park, volunteers there with the Monumental Task Committee were cleaning that statue, which was also vandalized and spray painted last night.
I've had death threats to me. I've had notes dropped off to my house, and I'm scared for me and my family. But I mean, as I said, I'm going to come out here and clean them. I don't want to see this in my city.
The decision has been made to take down the monuments. No matter what you think about me, no matter what you think about that idea, that is going to happen. And we would prefer that it happen in a very peaceful environment and a very, thoughtful way where people can know about it. But we are reacting to real life situations.
And the mayor still has not said specifically when the rest of these monuments will come down, but he did imply today that the decision to remove them was delayed in anticipation of the Alton Sterling case decision in Baton Rouge. Reporting live in Mid-City, I'm Casey Farand, WDSU News.
Casey, thank you. From handguns to shotguns to assault rifles, protesters showed up with a small arsenal of firearms Monday night, and many armed protesters are back at the monuments today. WDSU's Travers Mackel is live at City Hall to answer questions about the legality of these guns at a rally. Travers.
Sulla, in a word, yes, these guns are perfectly legal, but some say, despite the fact that it's perfectly legal to have guns at a protest, given the tension surrounding the monument controversy, it may not be best practices. As pro-monument supporters clashed with anti-monument activists Monday night, one thing stood out in a night of chaos: all the guns at the scene. From handguns to long guns to this man armed with an assault rifle, his vest packed with an additional 30 magazines, and he was back out at the scene today. And all of these people brandishing visible firearms were not breaking any Louisiana laws.
Well,
Gavin Kasher is a weapons expert and firearms instructor at the Shooters Club in Harahan.
it is, as long as it's not a permitted event. I don't believe that they got a permit to just go out there last night like that, so I would say yes, it is legal because Louisiana is an open carry state.
And the definition of an open carry state is simple:
It means that in Louisiana, you don't need a permit to carry a firearm on or about your person, as long as you made no reasonable attempt at concealment.
Church, synagogue, mosque.
WDSU security expert Mike Kahn also weighed in.
We are one of 40 states inside the United States that does allow open carry.
And places of worship, police stations, courthouses, and most schools are exempt from the open carry law. But the Jefferson Davis Monument is on a public neutral ground, so it's legal. But Kahn, a former NOPD SWAT team commander, says it adds a degree of difficulty for police trying to keep the peace.
It can very easily go from an exchange, since the weapon is right there on you, and go violent or deadly, rather than you having to go somewhere to get the weapon. It makes it very dangerous for the police to work in that atmosphere.
And speaking of a dangerous atmosphere, there were about 50 police officers at the scene last night. We were told there could be additional officers brought in back to the Jefferson Davis Monument tonight. Reporting live at City Hall, I'm Travers Mackle, WDSU News.
Travers, thank you. And a bill that would potentially save the Confederate monuments goes before a House committee tomorrow. House Bill 71 prohibits the destroying, removing, or replacing of any monument that commemorates specific wars in U.S. history. The bill goes before the House Committee on Municipal and Cultural Affairs tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. It is authorized by House Representative Thomas Carmody. And a Slidell babysitter is behind bars after police say she took the kids for a ride while driving drunk. Brenda Brown has been charged with driving while intoxicated and child endangerment. Police say 2 children were inside the car with Brown yesterday morning when she crashed into a fire hydrant and a utility pole on Highway 190 West. Investigators say the children were found on the floor, wedged against the seats after the crash. They were taken to the hospital with moderate injuries. Authorities in St. Tammany and Tangipahoa parishes are investigating recent burglaries apparently targeting locally owned pharmacies.
The St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office released surveillance footage today and at the same time is urging anyone with information to come forward. Both the crimes happened April 16th, Easter morning. Detectives say it appears the same people were involved at Layton's Pharmacy in Covington. They smashed through the front glass there, taking whatever they could during the few minutes they were inside. And at CNC Drugs in Mandeville, they used pry bars to try to get in, but were not successful. Detectives say the target in both cases is prescription drugs.
If a lot of them are opiate based, yes, they'll get sold on the street. And, you know, the people who are addicted to it will find out who's got what and they'll gravitate toward that.
We're getting them from both sides. One is a high usage of opioids, and secondly, the DA and the government is cutting productions of the opioids. So we are creating a shortage, and they are going to whatever extremes it is necessary to get the medication.
Authorities urge anyone with information to contact the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office. You can remain anonymous.
Dangerous road conditions, the huge hole residents in the Marigny, it's making them all up in arms. The issue that led to Lake Marigny and why crews haven't filled the hole yet.
Plus, the big achievement this woman made today and why it took her decades to make that dream come true.
And it's absolutely beautiful outside right now, but we've got rain and the potential for severe storms. I'll let you know when.